Yeah, so I would say I sympathize with them because we run into the same issues. We've had, in the past, players poached by the Arrows and Etobicoke, and it's, the pleasure of girls hockey borders. So you can go anywhere, and it takes an hour to drive anywhere anyways. So what cares if it's an hour and a half?
Right.
It's really insane how far people drive for the younger age groups. I get it at junior because we're all playing all over the province anyways. I understand a kid who wants to drive an hour and a half for practice, but when you're playing Bantam AA and you have, you're driving an hour and a half and you drive past 5 other Bantam AA teams on your way to practice to that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it, but
yeah, I don't get it either, but it's been a system that's been in place for such a long time. It's hard to get rid of it. But yeah, so thank you to Kim for the resources, and she'll probably be the one I'll reach out to. Crazy shenanigans, I'm sure, that will be happening.
Well, I'm doing.
I just want to interject here for 1 second,
Sammy.
here.
So we might be going through it together. I'm now in charge of that for the first time ever. So I think we both need a helping hand. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
I found an old portable hard drive, and I've got just found a video where Steve was coaching the Chinese national women's team, and they practiced with us. So I got a video of that practice, so it's kind of interesting to watch. So that was my interjection. We're all of a sudden, I got all kinds of girls that are going to go home because of this spike in COVID. So it's kind of.
Tom, where are you?
I coach at SAIT in Calgary.
Oh, so they're going to go home. They're not all from Calgary, your girls.
I've only got 4 or 5 players from Calgary.
I showed up to.
I was going to have a main camp kind of starting on Friday.
Okay.
So I had like 4 players that were going to come to that. One girl who Tim tried to recruit for UFC, a good defenseman, and a couple of my players, and like players from different provinces, and they've decided not to come. One girl just drove out from Vancouver. So anyways, we'll be practicing with about a dozen players for 4 days. And, other ones are going home because they're getting all worried about this COVID thing.
Well, Kim, you'd be pleasantly surprised that Jana Harrigan's 4-on-4 hockey has started up again in Burlington. And I signed up at playing forward 4-on-4, and I played against a team that had 4 girls from RPI on the team I was playing against.
No.
Oh, good luck, Sammy.
Yeah, so I ended up playing D, so I blocked about 1,000 shots and screened my goalie every single time, but they were so good.
So
I feel like all these rec teams are starting to get all these D1 players now that it's like crazy. So they didn't even go back down to school. And I also heard that Robert Morris had 18 of 22 girls test positive for COVID.
Ouch.
Yeah.
One of our Danish girls plays at RPI, Sammy.
Is she from the Burlington area?
No, she's from.
She's from Denmark.
Yeah, Copenhagen. But she decided to stay home this year, I think.
Yeah, so they were all doing remote learning, but I guess Robert Morris, they were already centralized at Robert Morris. So those girls are all in quarantine.
Yikes.
Yeah, we've got I've got 3 alumni skating with our team who decided not to attend. So one was supposed to be at Brown, one was supposed to be at Williams, and one is supposed to be at University of Windsor. So they're skating with us, and they were all letters on our leadership group the last 2 years with our junior team. So it's been awesome. They get to keep up their skills. They're still around the team, so it's great for culture. And now my players are seeing, like, we have a U Sports, a D3, and a D1 kid all on the ice with them. And so it's a really good touch point for them to see what those players do and how close or how far away they are. But more importantly for me, it's the culture piece. They're such good people. And they just, again, they were all on the team for 2 years prior to their college, them starting, this is, I guess, their first. So it's been a really good blessing for us that way to absorb kids. I don't know if a lot of other teams did that. I sort of said to them, they have to pay some amount. And if we play games, we might use them because they are rostered. But now that there's no games on the horizon, it's worked out really great. They get a ton of practice time, and it's really helped our overall levels. So I would hope that more junior teams might extend that olive branch to some of their former players. Like I said, I haven't heard as much of. I also don't pay a lot of attention to what the other junior teams are doing, to be honest with you.
Tim, I'd like to connect with the last few weeks with everybody and the video editing I've done. Okay.
Go for it. You're the boss.
Yeah. You're the great white.
No problem. The Dom and Kim and Malcolm, and incidentally, I've lost Malcolm's contact information.
I just tried him, Wally. I'll try him again, but
yeah. Anyway, the last thing I edited, 21 minutes. It's the second edit, Dom, and I put in titles, and I'm getting more out of it every time I look at it. And I don't know if anybody has a chance to look at the edits, but I'm getting a lot out of it. But I talked to Brad McKenzie, the brilliant young hockey mind in Prince Edward Island coaching Junior A. He gave me feedback on the entire 21-minute presentation, Dom. And you talked about stick flex, talked about hockey sense, talked about the difference between the girls and the boys game and how to improve the skill areas relative to shooting, and then the hockey sense relative to passing. And he said the one thing that everybody missed out on, there was one thing that stuck out. And he was thankful that I dealt with it at the end, so I'll get my point in. When you talk about stick flex, talk about hockey sense, and Kim, all the wonderful drills you're doing, first thing he said to me, his biggest takeaway, because he's heard everything you've talked about, he's that in tune to the game, coaching Junior A, was the importance of stick length and stick grip. If you don't do that, everything else is going to be far less productive than it should be. So I just wanted to mention to Tim that Sammy had a friend, what's his name, David from Boston, Sammy? He was
Derek.
on, Derek, and it was just outstanding. And he texted me this morning related to some stuff I sent out using the Japanese word. And it's about just getting a little better every day. And he's had experience with winning the championship with the female team, where he applied the 5 whys with that team from, it's a Toyota leadership model from the Japanese business model. And he couldn't be on today. So I just mentioned to him that I would sure like to have him come on, Dom, because he specifically referred to you and the work you're doing as being ahead of the curve and something that relates to what we talked about. So he might come on in the future, but I just want to thank Kim for coming on, and Sammy especially for the interview stuff. I've been through half of it now. I haven't posted everything, but I'm just posting it so I don't lose it. It stays on that site and you never lose anything. When I put stuff on my computer, I don't know where the hell it goes. So
it's a black hole.
Yeah. Now, I don't know, Tim, if you were able to get Rick's son on. I felt it was really important. We're starting to get a little top heavy in terms of the academic approach to the game. And I just wanted to make sure that what we did was good for the game at every level, more often than not. And Rick's son fits the bill completely because we mentored him in Strathmore, and Rick worked with us out there. And he's coached the youngest levels in Strathmore, and he's coached, Rick's son has coached the AAA Royals in the North Star Association. So I texted you his email, and I'm not sure if we can get him on, but he'd sure like to be a fly on the wall.
I'll just try him right now here, Wally. I forgot. I was actually waiting for somebody else to start the call. So anyway, I'm just trying him right now. And sort of on the, had like one thing on
I can
the,
break in for a second, Tim. He
Oh, yeah.
got He forgot he had a commitment to the food bank this morning to help out, so he begged off, but he will like to get on starting next week.
Okay, no
With
problem.
apologies.
So like on the, just one thing to interject on the stick length, stick flex thing, you know, when I was with the Japanese U14, 16, and 18s a year ago, 2 years ago, August, you know, right away I noticed how long all of their sticks were. And, you know, they've got some pretty skilled players, but, you know, we had a couple of chats with the coaches there and that, you know, really they might
Hi,
benefit.
Patricia. It's Sammy Joe calling.
Yeah.
I'm good. Is this an okay time to chat?
Oh, Sammy.
Perfect. Thanks so much for letting me connect with you. This is really great.
The dreaded microphone thing. Anyway, the Japanese coaches were pretty adamant that,
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
and they actually encouraged all the girls to have long sticks for the extra flex so they could shoot better. And I said, well, what good is it to be able to shoot better if that's your argument? If you shoot the puck once or twice a game, your best players, you got to handle the puck umpteen times a day game and make a pass. And I said, on top of that, especially in the female game, like the vast majority of goals are scored from 10, 12 feet out. You don't need flex there. You need to be able to manipulate your stick and get the shot off quickly. I think as Sammy made the point last week, and we all know a shot released more quickly, even if it's not as hard, is more difficult for the goalies. But they sort of weren't buying it. But I did a lot of research into the whole stick flex thing, and it's a really big hole in the market. There's not really, you know, there's companies trying to design them now, but not really a stick out there that's appropriate for, you know, senior level women. They have to use some bastardized type of male stick, really.
Yeah, Dom talked about that last week, Tim.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was commenting.
And when you went to the Flames Community Arena and we taped that, what's that company on sticks? It's long, and they all had sticks long and variations of flex. It's become the flavor of the year, and exactly what you've encountered, Tim. Like, I was there from 95 to 98 and stressed the importance of a right start and stick length, of course, but this is something you have to deal with. Kim's dealing with it in her association with her junior team, and it's a matter of trying to crank everybody back and do what Dom said is he's gone down to a 40 flex with some girls with the proper length, and that's great that that's up, but that's the problem. And it really affects the quality of game that there could be. And it's interesting that Brad McKenzie, he administered this Art of Coaching course, which was an 8-week course that I took online through Andrews Hockey. They were looking for a way to make some money in COVID. They put on a clinic and they had 30 coaches of all kinds of levels on board. And he hadn't really thought of put in the stick length piece, but by the end of it, with my interventions a number of times, it really became a good reminder for him. So when he's coaching his junior team now, boy, he's taken, Dom, the questioning in his coaching with the players and the looking at video and how the conversations go with that to another level, similar to what you've done. And looking forward to seeing and maybe hearing now how things are going with your team and your parents, Dom.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's things have moved pretty quickly here in the last little bit, to be quite honest with you. I think I mentioned to everyone that there's an opportunity to run a prep program here in Northern California. So considering that, and so as I start to have conversations with parents, that would be potential fits if that would be something I would do. Now I've got a meeting with the Sharks as far as getting on board with them in regard to their program. so just in regards to like running their girls side in San Jose, and as funny you would have it, they didn't want to talk to me prior when I would be part-time, but now seeing that I might commit full-time, wanting me to be involved in their whole organization. So it's evolved quite a bit, to be quite honest with you. And you know, I think a lot of it, people are willing to listen now a little bit because the feedback has been so positive in regards to the team that we have. And just, you know, and again, it sounds, and even as I say it, it sounds simplistic, but just the ethical coaching piece, because that really like is rampant throughout the organization, is an issue, and there's not really a overlying theme in regards to that. So yeah, just so again, I think that it's yeah, I might have created a job for myself, to be quite honest with you, in regards to kind of overseeing, you know, the you know, we call it the ethical side of coaching, where whether it's making sure the bench management is consistent, or you know, or in regards to like what is the mission statement, right? Like what is the mission statement going forward in regards to the whole organization? Because I think that they're just scraping the surface in regards to what they're able to do with the numbers and the infrastructure that they have. So, but that in regards to our team, it's been, just to tell you a quick story. So we cut one of the girls. So we had 15 girls. We cut 5 of them, and I arranged because they weren't sure whether they were going to have a second team. And so there was one individual from the Maritimes that I knew has a really, really high emotional intelligence, and the way to be able to, he's a people person. He understands what his girl needs. He has a girl that loves to play, and understands she needs to compete. So we put him on, basically convinced him to say, hey, can you coach this other team on the other side? And so he went on the other side, and the bunch of girls quit right initially. They didn't make the first team, and so basically, and I'll preface it by saying he doesn't have he plays goalie in men's league, but can barely stand up on skates. I'll be perfectly honest. And so, but that being said, so now it's 3-4 weeks that he's been coaching on this other side, and I gave him a little bit of a template. I just said, make sure they play, make sure that they compete, and I just kind of left them to that. So fast forward now, a month later, we get all the girls together and we have this kind of rogue game that we have, and she comes back, and she, like, how much she's improved. And again, a lot of it is she just loves to play, but how much she's improved over the course of a month, just by having her dad, who's been able to control the environment and has enough emotional intelligence to understand how to get them competing. And again, hey, I very, very simplistic template: play a game, have them race, have them compete. Obviously the skill portion, he can't provide that, but just enjoy him coming. Like, to me, is like, I should show video of what this girl was last year, under the coach that was from Toronto and had, wanting to win. I thought to myself, I'm like, I don't even know why she comes, because she doesn't touch the puck and she's not involved whatsoever. And fast forward here, as I say, half a year, and again, I'll preface everything by saying, like, her dad doesn't necessarily know much about coaching the game, but understands enough and is smart enough to know how to get them competing and having a creative environment. So that, to me, was just a huge takeaway in just our discussions here. So I don't know if that helps anything.
Yeah, Dom, I really want to thank you, because you're the benchmark of change here, in my mind. I talked to, for the benefit of everybody, I had Monday morning, I had a phone call with the president and the executive director of the NHL Coaches Association, and they've added a couple of female employees, Mandy Dumal and Kim Davis. I had the conversation on the phone for an hour, and I had been commuting with a lady there. I just don't have her name handy. She was is down as the president, but the executive director is Michael. What's his last name, Dom?
Hirschfield, Michael Hirschfield.
And I came away from that, Dom, thinking of you and your first statement about the Sharks and their female hockey program. Do you remember what it was?
No, I say a lot of things I can't remember.
They don't give a shit about female hockey.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. So when I finish that conversation, they've hired these ladies that have come on, and we've got Kim and Sammy on now. And of course, Tim and I and many of you are experienced in the female game. We care about female hockey. So my approach to them was really just to introduce them to the good of the game and the ethical pieces, and complement which apparently, according to Michael, is on behalf of the NHL. So I'm a little bit concerned about the female initiatives that are, to me, a little bit more token than they should be. And one of the things moving forward, and I don't know if Sammy's still on, I see your speakers off, but for Kim and Sammy, I talked to Shelley Coolidge, and she's advised me to talk to Tom Rennie relative to doing something in the future, whether it's through the NHL Coaches Association, on the unique ethical pieces that exist in the female game that are common but still in the closet in the male game. So when Kim talked about, breastfeeding her child in the dressing room, and we talked about mothers coaching, and we talked about partners with kids, and we talked about the gender issues going on. I'm hoping, and I was, it's the suggestion is I'll be trying to contact Tom Rennie to get a hold of Brian Burke to maybe get some headway in terms of respect for those issues, but in particular respect for the female game with the NHL Coaches Association. So welcome to the club, everybody. It's pretty well all over the place, but go ahead, Tim. I've interjected enough here. I got my 2 bits in, so that's good.
Well, I'm just going to point out so it's clear to everybody that although, and I don't have much dealings with them, the NHL Coaches Association, they may not be where we'd like them to be in terms of female hockey, but they have been inclusive enough to include a bunch of females on their coaching seminars and conferences, which is a good thing. They do have a female mentorship program set ready to go when the NHL starts up again, where they're going to partner female coaches in NHL cities with, the plan is with an assistant coach, one of the NHL assistant coaches. In fact, I even volunteered with Lindsay last year. I said, hey, I'm here in Calgary. Like, if I can be of assistance, great. So it may not be where you want it to be. And it may be Michael in particular has got his plate full and doesn't really want to add anything else onto it. But I think it's important to recognize that they are trying to help the female team. So just important to keep that in mind, I guess.
Well, I agree with you. It's a darn good thing that it's going on. I just looked at the word that Dominic's used is authenticity is very important here. And I think that's really important for everything you do, whether you're just coaching guys or whether you're just coaching girls. And then the ability to communicate and work together is so critical with that. And the expertise of and what they offer, I went through their website carefully, and they're just doing incredible things. And it's exactly what I'm trying to do, or we're trying to do as a group. And Tracy's on board, and he may be talking to them because his expertise area is the digital transformation, to be able to share ideas and concepts and thought in a more timely fashion with a greater population to make a bigger difference. So that's really what we're doing. I understand where they're coming from, but I mean, being in female hockey from this 98 on, I understand the challenges of coaching in the female game as a male, and the challenges as a female trying to coach is something that I think this is going to all benefit. So, TJ, you're coaching girls. So, what do you take away from all this? You're muted, but we want to see if your mic works today.
I'm on a different computer here today, Wally. So
okay, I see your picture.
I suspect I'm working.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah,
I do.
no, it's all good. Like Tim, I noted that the NHL Coach Association had a bunch of female speakers at their last session. I mean, I don't know if I'm really tuned in enough to know in the big picture how well the movement is going, but I'm certainly seeing more of it.
Well, it's interesting because I think we talked about this a little bit before. I can't remember which national team coach you brought up about sort of her unwillingness to watch NHL. Was that Miller or?
Yeah, Shannon Miller. Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Because I think it's all great, but how much is being done by the leaders of female hockey to bolster female hockey? You know what I mean? Like I have no problem being involved with the NHL or doing those types of things because obviously there's a huge audience there. But I do think it's interesting that, in trying to integrate and, be in front of more people, it begs the question, should we not be doing more to get the women or the people coaching women's hockey together and doing something similar like to this to grow that think tank, right? As opposed to, when I spoke at Roger Nielsen's, I guess it was last year now, right? I'm presenting on women's hockey, and everybody in the crowd is people who coach women's hockey. There was no one who watched my presentation who wasn't involved in the female game. And I just mean that to say, like, I don't personally think there's a forum, and maybe I'll have to create it, where like people within women's hockey all coming together to grow women's hockey. It doesn't exist, and I don't know if there's an appetite for it, but I do think there's a need for it, especially if organizations that are both male and female are trying to do it on our behalf, if that makes sense. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that, but I do think it's missing, and I do think there is a value in the people who are in the thick of it to try to grow it as well.
I'm not aware of, any kind of a conference or whatever that was exclusively directed at female coaches and for female hockey. And so I would agree in some level that might be a really good thing to try to initiate and see what the response is. Obviously, in Ontario, huge number of coaches and players and everything else, it might be a good to initiate it. My second thought is, as much as there are some differences, I still think to a large extent, hockey is hockey. And a large part of that, as we know, is managing the ethical side and the people side. And I don't think there's a great deal of difference between the male and the female. Obviously, there are differences, but I'm not sure the differences are so great that obviously, male coaches like it surprises me, Kim, to hear you say that, when you're at Rogers, that there were no male coaches listening to what was your topic there?
No, there were male coaches.
No, but they were coaching female hockey.
Yeah,
right?
they were all coaching. It was something along the lines of like the current state of female hockey and what needs to change, like something like that. Now there were a couple. It was one of those breakout sessions, right? So there were different options to go to. It was well attended. Don't get me wrong, and I may, be, it could have been 90% of the people in the room were coaching female hockey, and I only say that because I knew most of them because of what I do, right? So I was like, oh, these are a lot of familiar faces. So I agree with you, Tim, that having a mission statement and the way we might teach skill and the way we use the Socratic method, agreed 100% the same. However, there is a marketing messaging piece that is extremely valuable, and I've made my whole business off of it. If I was running total hockey versus total female hockey as my business, I would probably do the identical stuff. But one of the reasons my business is so successful is that there's an appetite from the coaches, the parents, and the players to come somewhere that is exclusively theirs, right? And that is messaged specifically to them. When I'm speaking to a female audience, when I'm sending out my weekly newsletters, right? And I'm speaking about the mental game, I am certainly talking about it in a way that we would all talk to female athletes who are, not super confident, who need that little extra push. Like, I know my market, and I wonder if that would be the same thing with a type of, coaching seminar or something like this, right? Is that I agree with you. It is the same, but the messaging of it may need to be a little different. It may actually, we may actually want it to be a little different. I'm not saying we're coddling anyone. It's just, there are differences, and if we, celebrate those, I think in Junior A in Ontario, they just announced they're going to play the Junior A season, but they're not allowed any contact for the boys. Right? They're going to play the OJHL. I don't know what it is, but they're going to play with no contact. And they're like, we're not playing. This is ridiculous. And I'm like, that is ridiculous because we're at least contact. And remember when I played out in Calgary, right? We play the midget AAA teams or the midget AA teams and on the boys side, and we do okay, but they weren't allowed to annihilate us with a body check. And so that doesn't make women's hockey better or whatever. It just makes it different. And I wonder if you start to, if you gave a coach a seminar specifically about the mental side of female hockey, that's going to be a completely different seminar than if it's just about the mental side of hockey.
Yeah, I agree.
It would be completely 100% different because I've been in the Hockey Canada seminars by Paul Dennis, which are fantastic. I've probably seen him give that same speech 30 times. And it's great information, but I wouldn't give that presentation to my female players.
Could I interject here?
Go for it.
I think I agree. But one thing I will say is that there's a deeper issue. Like there's a deeper issue with guys on the male side that don't see the benefit of the girl side. Because I've drawn so many parallels between coaching my girls and coaching pros, but Kim, I 100% understand what you're saying in regards to like something that Mr. Dennis had given as what you would show, but I think that's part of that to me, in my opinion, part of the issue on the male side. And what we found is that what's been done in the past in regards to how we communicate with players is not the right way to do it. And to be honest with you, I've learned so much from coaching my 14-year-old and being around with the relationships with my 14-year-old daughter and her teammates in regards to relating back to on the male side. But I think, Kim, it's a deeper issue of just thinking, I'm not going to learn anything from this. Why would I go? It's unfortunate for me to say it, but it's prevalent. I see it with with the boys that played with my daughter. And again, you've gone through all of this playing with boys and everything else. But I think I agree with you. There's something you have to put directly like catered and specific for the women's side. I 100% agree. But I think the reason why there's not more buy-in from on the strictly male side is because there's this bias and there's this mindset that what could I possibly learn from here? And that's an issue. That's a more deep-seated issue that I don't really want to get into, but that's just my piece.
Dominic, I just want to mention, I've been thinking exactly what you're saying through this whole conversation ever since Tim spoke up on behalf of the NHL Coaches Association. That's sincere, dealing with those issues. And in that regard, Kim, I have thought of contacting Fran and Pat at the OW and talking to you and Sammy about setting up an ethical coaching module or a female ethical coaching module through them that you would lead, talking about the challenges of females coaching and getting to the differences related to sexuality and coaching and the challenges of dealing with males in coaching, but dealing with the situations that go on. And the one statement that came out of one of our previous meetings was, how many guys are still in the closet where, Dominic, as you mentioned, out west, those issues are not even issues. And so to me, the girls, females, and the female game have more to offer than the male game relative to the ethical side of coaching and the hockey sense side of coaching, because without hitting, I looked at that no body checking in the OHL as a good thing, Kim, because they won't, and they used to just run each other, take themselves out of position, and it's all stick on puck these days. So what a great opportunity to learn how to get possession of the puck, which is the purpose of checking. So it's just I look at it as, hey, this is a positive thing. Well, it's a guy's thing. We hit, we body check. It's part of the game. Fighting is accepted. And I'm not arguing that there should be no fighting. I think the emotionality of the sport takes it to wherever it takes it. But I respect coaching females and being able to coach and learn from them in terms of asking questions, and they want to know. The female mind is not one to be told what to do and how to do it all the time. And your player's response, Dom, to this process just reinforces it tenfold for me. So moving forward, I'm excited about you being involved. I'm sort of hoping you stick with your pro coaching career to see how those kind of things might filter into your coaching or the coaches you work with and how they do differently. But I believe they would benefit more from this kind of thinking relative to developing hockey sense, dealing with the ethical issues that have gone on in the male game in terms of harassment and whatever. So it's really good to have, us talking together, and for you, Dom, being involved, you're adding credibility to these sessions, and it's all for the good of the game. And I think that's the most important thing of all.
Yeah, and again, I apologize if I've said this story before. I've been now 5 years now in Stockton. And I can say from year 1 to year 5, the biggest difference is in our environment and in our culture and how we deal with the players, and how we've evolved to the point where we're at now. And if I look back and be critical of how we started in a very much, and I don't want to say old school because it's not, it was progressive in its thinking, but we were very much like, we were very detailed in the video that we showed, and like the coaches that were there were extremely articulate. But we didn't connect with the players on an individual basis, on an individual level as much. And the feedback from players, and I pride myself in the relationships that I have with players and players that have since left. The received is that when we've had team meetings and team video, that everybody's just holding their breath just not to be seen on the video, right? Like they're not necessarily even looking and seeing what we're trying to show them, and so the feedback was like the individual sessions were much more beneficial. So that's very much so a trend. And on the other side is that, like, the closer that I've gotten with the players on an individual level has been and I won't say easier, but just it's facilitated the ability to be able to get them, like, whether it's not, and it's not forcing them to do anything, but I'm just able to have real conversations, and it goes back to the authenticity piece of it. And so I relate that again to coaching the 14s. Like I did because we're struggling on offensive zone line rush, and so I drew a big rink on the ice and I put pucks in positions, and then I asked them, I said, you have the person driving on the wide wall, and they have the D in front of them, where should you go? And right away there was just rapid fire, like, oh, you got to drive the net, you got to drive wide. And I asked why. Nobody could answer why. It was just what they had heard. And so right away it clued into me is like they're all just, at the end of the day, everybody's just people, like, they just wanted to please me as opposed to be actually thinking. And so it's the same thing with the pros, right? They're so conditioned to be able to say exactly what they think you want to hear, but then they're not, right? And that was our mistake of the first 3 years or whatever else have you, is that we checked all the boxes. We did all the video. We pre-scouted everybody. We showed them what they needed to see, what we thought they needed to see. And, players like, oh yeah, it was organized and we did everything else. But you could see objectively, you would look and be like, we're not making a dent into what we're trying to do here. Guys aren't learning how to play. At the end of the season, they're quick to want to get out because we weren't making the personal connections. And so I guess, on either side, I guess I'm just reinforcing the fact, just how much correlation. You might not think that there's much correlation between 14 new girls in California and playing at the highest level, but I think there's more than anything. It's so crystal clear. It's becoming more and more definite in my opinion, anyways.
I think Kim, you could maybe go a long way towards funding your retirement when that eventually comes. If you and Sammy maybe did get together and start up an all-female hockey conference like Roger Nielsen's, not that you would exclude anybody, but just have it specifically directed towards female hockey. And as Dom and Wally, and I think we'd all agree, like a presentation on the ethical piece and mission statement stuff and everything would go a long way toward helping and improving sort of female hockey, whether it's first in the Toronto area or and then eventually expanding. But I think it's definitely, there's a huge market out there. You don't worry about whether the males coaches would come or not come because you don't really need them. There are more than enough people out there coaching female hockey. So I think it is a big hole in the market.
From a marketing point of view, that's absolutely right. But my point, Tim, is just as Dominance was, the girls don't need it as much as the guys. He's trying to take that kind of thinking to apply to coaching, to engage the players. And we've really been raised on over telling, always telling, directing. And in minor hockey before, it was yelling. And I think I understand that the females would get it and do more with it relative to their cause, but the males need. I'd propose a session on what males can learn from female hockey and female coaching. Period. That to me is right up front. And I'm talking about every coach in the NHL right now who appear to be far more diplomatic, less vocal. And when you look at players on the bench looking at iPads, Dom, and video analysis, they basically are coaching that way. They're listening to their players at the highest level. And that's what's occurring. And it's the American League and those other leagues, the junior leagues, and the way we coach. And so it's all good discussion, but I'm glad it came up because I was hoping to establish something with the NHL Coaches Association. And Tim, you offered your services in the mentorship. Any response?
No, but that's not surprising. You know, they're running a big freaking organization there, and for somebody to take it in. And anyway, and I agree with you, Wally, that certainly it's gravely needed on the men's side, sort of that ethical piece and the mission statement piece. But I think it's still probably gravely needed on the female side as well. And there is for sure a hole in the market for female coaching enhancement education. And I think it's a great sort of observation by Kim that it is missing, and that would be step one, like get something like that going and let it spread out. And yeah, I mean, I think it'd be pretty easy to approach the Roger Nielsen's group people and have them and present with them the idea of having a speaker like Kim or like Sammy, like go in and talk about ethical coaching, and not to female coaches, but to, I think it would be great, and the NHL Coaches Association for that matter.
Well, I think I want to just touch on two things because I agree with Tim and Wally here. I think your cohesiveness within your own community is critical, and that is missing in the female game. I think I've said this before. You know, anytime I've emailed anyone who is, you know, coached on the men's side, they send me a million things. You know, that, hey, anytime I can help. It's a different. I find it's got a different willingness to help. For whatever reason, on the female side, people are more guarded of their information, or maybe that's just the females. There's like more of an ego or nervousness about it. So I think, to Tim's point, you build the cohesiveness in our own community, kind of, you know, I'm not a political person, but kind of that like activation of our people and get us banging the drum, and then, you know, feed itself, and that's going to continue to feed itself, right? And then you can go out and take that energy and that education and share it with other people. Dom, I wanted to touch really quickly on your video stuff because I've completely changed how I do video. One, because of COVID. Two, because girls hate seeing themselves on video.
Yeah.
Because they, you know, oh, my hair looks funny, my pants are weird. I don't know if the guys think that, but honestly, it takes us like 4 sessions for them to get over like what their swag looks like. So I'll tell you what I did last week. So now that our practices are videoed automatically, I clipped out 3 minutes of 2 drills. One is I forget, Wally calls it the Perns 3-on-3. I've changed it to 2-on-2 because we only have 8 skaters at a time. So it's just a breakout attack, continuous drill. I clipped out 3 minutes of half the team doing that drill. And then I clipped Wally, I think you call it the Pacina, it's Thomas's drill, right? The 4-on-2, the one you sent out with Carla's team doing it. So I took 3 minutes of the other half of the team doing that drill. And I sent them the video links on, I think I sent them through WhatsApp, but I probably put it on Dropbox. And I said, okay, ladies, you know our principles of, you know, poise, persistence, and pace. I want you to watch these 2 3-minute videos. And at practice tonight, we're going to talk about the 3 Ps. You're going to be able to give me an example of where a player showed one of the 3 Ps. Right now, it's really interesting because, of course, your more self-centered players pick up 3 things of themselves. I did this, I did this, I did this, right? The ones who are, you know, I call them like the team moms. you know, just like effusive with praise about what Sally did on the, you know, they give you a dissertation about each clip, right? But every girl did it. They all sent it to me via text. And then we talked about it, you know, at practice, not in a like strict video session, but I know all of them watched it. And I know they watched it critically. So it wasn't me standing up saying, watch how, you know, Sally here made this great pass through the middle of the ice instead of up the wing. Like, good job, Sally. They each came up with it, and I kept all the answers. And they came up with, so we had the 3 Ps. They each had to give me one instance. 15 players sent it to me. They came up with 40 different instances of the 3 Ps. So they very rarely even had the same instance. There's no way in a video session I could cover all 40 points. It's impossible, right? But they're looking at it, you know, and again, they may have still said, oh, my hair looks weird, or my skates are funny, or whatever. I didn't need to listen to that noise. But, you know, they found it very helpful. I've been doing video like that, I'd say for the last 3 or 4 years. And it takes, you know, it saves me time. They're so used to watching it on their phones anyways. They don't really need it. You know, it's 3 minutes long instead of a 35-minute session. You know, I found it's been really powerful for them. Again, in the absence of real games, which we aren't going to get anytime soon. I don't know if anyone's done that similarly on the boys' side or at, you know, at the college level or the pro level, but it works really well at our community level. And it doesn't, you know, again, when you ask them on the ice, the girls, the outgoing girls say, I know the answer. And they try to give you the answer you want. When you do it in this more individualized way where they can email it to me and there's no one judging them about it, like their teammates judging them about it, it's a lot safer and you get a lot more information that way. So anyways, I just wanted to share. I don't know if I don't think I've revolutionized anything, but it does allow them to take ownership of it as opposed to me dictating what they need to watch on the video.
Kim, I want to thank you because in these sessions, you've brought so much, but I think the most important thing is you're experimenting with stuff that's going on in the sessions, just like Dominic did. He wouldn't have done what he's doing if he hadn't been having these discussions with our group, and that's the beauty of these interactions. And something that Tim didn't mention, but she shared a couple of videos with me where the skills to help them score in terms of transition skating to forwards and backwards and finding the right ice to receive the pass to score in. Kim, you recall those drills that you did that really showed the skills that you need to do to get to the right place, along with the mind to get to the right place. And you're covering those bases incredibly well and in a way that I don't think many people are. I've been advocating for it probably for 15 years. I'm becoming a little more aware. And of course, that occurred back in the Joan Vickers days. It started there. But you're doing things that are ahead of the time in that regard. And thanks for sharing that stuff. But that's the thread of coaching is the listening idea and, you know, the use of video. Boy, that's one of the things that I've been guilty of is I've been the one talking all the time in all the video teams with the national team. So it's
great stuff, Kim. Outstanding. I love the way that you've used technology and to individualize their learning in that regard. Just a quick story from our team, our best video session, and again, I don't think we've ever really rated them in previous years, but so we split the team up. We brought everybody in because normally our typical video session is after a game we would come in and we would show everything we did great or everything we did poorly or whatever else have you, and then all 20 guys would be in the room and then we disperse. Right? That's just kind of the way they've that I've been a part. When I've done video, that's kind of typical. So one of the days we decided, okay, we're going to split the group into I think we're groups of 4 or groups of 5. And we identified 4 clips, and then we, broke everybody up, all the different, a coach per group, and the coach was just there to facilitate the video, showing the video. And so we showed the video, and then we, similar to what you did, we just had the players like, okay, what are we looking at? And we didn't give them any, instruction. Obviously, we had grouped the clips in regards to whether it was forecheck or neutral zone forecheck or breakout or whatever else have you. And then we had them, okay, well, what are the things you see? And we, as I say, the video coach put it forward and back in regards to the video. And then, they got their points, and then we brought everybody back together, and then kind of went through, okay, here's the 4 clips. Everybody looked at the same 4 clips, and then we had different guys kind of speaking to what they came up with. So at the end of the year, when we had our exit meetings, they were literally bringing up that video session as being the one that they enjoyed the most, right? And so, from a staff, we felt that the same. And again, you geek out as coaches, and you don't really, you think, well, yeah, we're doing a great job as coaches, patting yourself on the back, but you think to yourself, well, the players don't really get it or don't, appreciate it. But it was a positive coaching, or it was a coaching moment for us to really be like, we have to do more of this. This is what we need to do. And so, Kim, it sounds like you're further along the path in that regard, in regards to sending your players video. But if I think personally now, my plan here moving forward with power play stuff is that I would send them the night before. I would send them clips the night before. We have an app similar to what it would be like WhatsApp, but we can send individual videos to right to their phone, and just be like, okay, we're working on power play tomorrow. This is the pre-scout or whatever it is from the night before. So now when they come in the morning, you just have a discussion. You're not showing them the clip. They should have already watched the clip. Now, is the time going to be where player A shows up and you ask him and he hasn't watched the clip? 100%. But now it gives a little bit of accountability, because now the other players are like, well, what are you doing, right? Do you want to be on the power play? Yada, yada, yada. So just some ideas from our side of it.
Well, guys, I have to jump off here, but I wanted to share one story about stick length, because now I'm on the Wally Kozak crusade to fix all the stick length. So I'm doing a camp in an hour with a bunch of bantam players. So what's that? Youth 15. They're mostly A and below. So A, double B, and B. So not top end by any stretch of imagination. They're private school girls, and they all go to the same private school. So they have the next 3 days off. So we're doing probably some of the drills I've just popped up in the chat. And I'm just losing my mind on stick length. So there's a girl who's the same height as me. I'm, 5'9" on a good day, let's say 5'8", and her stick is over her head. She's the same height as me, and her stick on the ice is over her head. So I'm watching them. We're doing shooting transition drills. I'm like, I can't. So I just handed the girl my stick. I was like, here you go. And she looked at me like I was a psycho, because A, I just met her. I do not know this person at all. I've spent 45 minutes on the ice with her, and I'm just giving her my stick. I'm like, use this. Now, of course, instantly she bends her knees. She actually looks like a hockey player. So she's one of those players who's got the chicken wing at the top, and she's just flicking with her bottom hand. And her stick is a hook. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, if I needed to open a can of like peas, I would use this stick. It like that hooked on the end. Every pass is fluttering. Every shot is fluttering. So for about 20 minutes, I make this girl use my stick. She's kind of looking over at me like, can I have it back? I don't say anything. So we scrimmage at the last 10 minutes, just, cross ice, fun, whatever. And I give her stick back. So she's on one team with 3 of her friends. I'm on the other team with 3 other girls. I dump the puck in. She's got her stick back now. And she gets the puck first. And doesn't she go to send a pass, and it's a flutterer, and it goes so hard off my shin. I swear to God, I have a golf ball on my shin from this girl. I don't think she has the skill to do it on purpose. But it was very ironic. I thought, wow, that's karma for me, scaring the crap out of this poor 13-year-old girl by stealing her stick. And now she broke my shin with her snapshot pass. So I'm interested to see. I'm on the ice with the same group today. I sent Wally. I think I sent you the information. I stole all of Tim Bothwell's information on stick length and the stuff Wally sent me and the stuff Sam sent me, and put it in one ridiculously long article. And I sent all 8 of those players' parents that article last night. So I'm going to be interested to see if they show up with shorter sticks today, or if that kid doesn't show up at all. I hope she shows up.
The moral of the story is you need shin pads.
Well, yeah, and then so I tell this story to my junior kids last night. They're dying, right? And they're like, Kim, don't be one of those duster coaches who wears shin pads. So I was just laughing. But anyways, I got to run because I got to go see if this kid, still wants to play hockey after her experience with me yesterday. But I appreciate it, guys, and I'll see you again next week. Thank you.
See you, Kim. Hey, Sammy, figure skating is okay too, whatever your passion is. Oh, yeah, I think your mic's still off, but that's a good story.
Yes, I need to be okay with other sports. I think this kid is really pushing me into out of my comfort zone, and I need to be okay with all of that. She wanted to wear her unicorn dress under her hockey equipment, so.
The Niedermeyers started it with figure skating. Their mom was a figure skating instructor. It did them both pretty good.
My goalie school this year, I had it's in Oakville, and we had 3 of my goalies in bantam still figure skate, which I found really interesting, especially as goalies.
I don't know how they do it on the Battle of the Blades, to be honest with you. Like I'm amazed what all of them can do. Like
they're doing so well. I am just so impressed. I was talking to Jen just yesterday about the stance. So she said, in hockey, when you want to go over your blades, you want to be ready all the time. Like you're stepping into the puck, you're stepping into a shot. You can't do that in figure skate. So you need to be on your heels the whole time. So you can't get excited about anything, because that's when she wants to go forward and then you toe pick and you fall. So I was curious if maybe like a goalie, except for the fact that we're not as good skaters as they are, but a goalie or maybe a speed skater who is more used to those long blades would get used to it quicker. But all 3 have done remarkably well. Jen said after a couple weeks it was okay.
It just blows my mind, really. Like I've never been on figure skates, but it's got to be a bizarre experience.
I would like to just try it to see if it is similar to maybe goalie skates, the way you stand. She said you're kind of on your heels the whole time. So
yeah, and
anyways, I digress.
Yeah, and that was one of the things the only time I've been on speed skates, and I don't know, TJ, you were probably there at the coaching conference in '94 at U of C here, when they got all of the coaches, like 300 coaches out with a couple of national team speed skaters, and we all did a little relay lap thing, and that was one of the it was quite an experience, actually. How easy it was to glide, number one, how much speed you could get, and how much you had to literally, the opposite of what you want to do with hockey, how you had to like literally pick your foot up and put it down when you're turning a corner, versus in hockey, ideally, you sort of the motion is more like this as opposed to this. So anyway, yes, we digress.
I want to welcome Morris. Morris, can you hear me?
And Morris, your mic's off. There you go.
Okay. Now I'm looking at the top. BM, is that Brad Moran?
I think probably he might be trying to get some work done too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Yes. Good to hear you.
Listening for sure.
Morris, I the last few sessions you've been on, I'm really curious about, your take on everything we've been talking about relative to your mindset and your experience. And you haven't been on for all of them, but I'm always curious because you're another one similar to Dom who thinks differently and is willing to do things. And for everybody in the Sharks audience, I'm hoping to get Morris to do a session similar to Jim Hunter, where Morris has his a PowerPoint on languaging. It's absolutely incredible, and it has to do with positive communication. And I think the languaging in his era is just getting away from the negativity of the languaging, even though you mean well in the way you say things. And I'm looking forward to that. But Morris, what are you taking out of everything here in your mind?
You know what, Wally, I have missed the last few, so I'm unclear on what the topics were. Can you just tell me one topic and I'll give you my...
From what you heard, are you curious about anything?
Oh, boy. Well...
Did you hear Dominic talk about, like we talked about, and I don't know if you were on, like I mentioned that the guys have more to learn from the girls' game than the girls do from the guys' game, in terms of coaching particularly. Did you hear that portion?
No. Well, I'd have to give that a little bit of thought. So how about we let me think about that? Or you say the guys have more to learn from the women's game than the women do from the men's game?
Yes, from an emotional intelligence point of view, from a learning point of view, from a coaching point of view, and it's due to the ability of inquiry and the female wanting to understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and the ability to coach to that. And on the guy's side, Dominic has mentioned that's the biggest thing he's learning from the girls' game, that they might do better in the guys' game. So,
well, you know what, Wally, what immediately comes up, and actually I had a question for Dominic today, because there has been a question on my mind the last couple of weeks. So my immediate take on what men could learn from the women's game is when a player gets into a slump, is there something that coaches who work with women that helps get them out of a slump quicker? Because when a man gets into a slump, like, is there like he's lost his confidence? Like, I'm talking about a scoring slump, or a defenseman perhaps playing bad defense, or like, is there a piece of coaching that can be used that would normally be applied with a woman that could be applied to a man in order to help him get out of a slump quicker? So that was a question that I had around this.
did you see Sammy Joe's response?
No.
Sammy, can you say that?
I would agree, Sammy.
I'm just unmuting myself. Morris, that's a great question, but I think that in that particular aspect, women can learn more from men when it comes to that. I think women, it takes longer, Tim will attest to this, to get out of the slump. I think we tend to internalize, this is a generalization. So when I talk about women, I say 80% of the women tend to internalize. And in fact, I feel like the women that get over it quicker, we often say in the women's game, think like a guy, which is not proper verbiage nowadays to say. But the ones that can really just own it, see it, be it, and move on. Whereas most women will not talk about it. Most women will beat themselves up over it more than men will, I think. That's just my outside perspective. But Dom specifically has worked with the age group, I think, that is really susceptible for beating themselves up. So Dom, maybe what do you think about that?
Yeah, I would say the guys that made the highest level have made the highest level because they can get over a slump quicker. And I think that probably has something to do with it, to be quite honest with you. Like, because I'll be honest with you, with the guys that at the American League level, and if we've got 20 guys, there's 2 of them that are going to play in the NHL, right? But hey, not because they don't have the ability, and that's the one underlying thing. I mean, yeah, I would say that I don't think it's as the confidence that like the typical guy is as prevalent as you might think in regards, because you got to think there's 700 players in the NHL. There's a lot more than 700 players that play the game and that are not able to play in the NHL. And so I think the ability to get over it is an elite skill in itself, to be able to get out of a slump. In regards with the girls.